You mentioned the beautiful music, and that's an element, of course, when we go see a motion picture. Sometimes they'll clear away all the acting. You can hear the music soar. It's very present, but generally speaking, it's kind of quietly underneath, and you don't even feel it working on you. Really great score, orchestral score will work on the down low. It's not very broad and in your face. Here in the audio realm, naturally, music's going to play a big part of things and probably play a more central role than it would necessarily in a motion picture, at least a role that's going to be noticed more because there's only very few audio elements at work, score being one of them. James, how do you approach scoring the endless? How do you score a comic book that everybody's read for 30 years, for 3 decades? How do you go like, okay, this is what I feel that Sandman sounds like?
Well, it's interesting what you say about this, the role of music in film. I can't remember who said it. I think it may have been George Lucas, but he sort of estimated that sound and music is 60% of the experience, something like that. But it is interesting that it's also the sort of aspect of a production that people are least aware of or least conscious of, because it's sort of affecting us subconsciously, I guess. So I don't know. I think it's probably more noticeable in its absence. If you took it away, you wouldn't have as many emotional cues. But there's something like this. I mean, I think, with the absence of visual cues, there's a sort of, the onus on the composer is to sort of lend atmosphere and sort of create a sort of, and the sound designers to create a kind of virtual set and sort of paint pictures, not necessarily always support a narrative. Not sort of punctuate every moment. Like in a sort of superhero film, you may have a kind of big setup shot. The camera pulls back, and you'll hear this sweeping music, and there's a moment for the music to sort of exist by itself and make a point of some kind. But in a drama like this, it's I think the function is different in the sense that it's mostly underpinning dialogue. So I think restraint is a big factor, but it has to be sort of subtly manipulative. I mean, that's the goal, but not sort of not competing with the actors, not sort of saying too much, giving the actors space. I don't want to impose too much. And that was the first thing. I mean, whether or not to have themes for the endless, for specific characters, I don't really feel there are. It's kind of more to do with relationships, and the narrative, I think, is sort of, because it isn't scored to picture. I don't know if I'm getting into this side too much.
No, that's it. That's a film score.
Well, it's not synced to picture, so it's a lot of it's in Dirk's editing as well, how it will actually tell a story. Because I'm not, I can't sort of work with the visual sequence and score that and have it actually hit certain points. So there's a kind of slightly general aspect to some of the music. There may be specific moments that need to be punctuated, but there's very little within the drama where there isn't dialogue. So the music has to sort of sit back and say as little as possible, but sort of have the right effect, I guess you could say. But yeah, focus, I think, for me is relationships, atmosphere, create a sense of space and scale, because these are the things you can't see. So I think a lot of the narrative, the use of the music in the narrative comes through the editing. And a lot of my music, because it is it's an 11-hour long experience, and there isn't 11 hours of music, so some of it had to be approached in a kind of general way, kind of location based, or creating specific atmospheres, and it's sort of stitched together expertly, I must say, by Dirk. So I don't know, this sort of composition goes hand in hand with Dirk's editing, because I don't always know how it's going to end up in context, because I don't have anything to see. So in that way, it's very interesting, sort of painting this picture with music when you sort of it's an entirely imaginative one. And also, I suppose, trying not to become too personal, because when this is on the page, the words and the pictures are there, and of course, the reader is creating all of this in their own minds. And as soon as you realize it as music, and any given performance, it becomes very personal and about that that particular interpretation. So fortunately, I had Dirk to guide me there, and of course he was working closely with Neil, so it's very much their vision. So I needed to, I really felt that I needed to be steered by Dirk, but in, inject a little bit of myself into it as well, but not impose too much, not compete with everything else that's going on.